Hello and welcome back to the YMA channel. My name is Paula Jean, and in my last video I mentioned that I wanted to do a bit of a sewing roundup over the last 6-ish months while I haven't been on YouTube, but I did make a lot of stuff this summer. So I'm actually going to break it up into 2 parts. So this is part 1 of 2, and it's going to be focused on the regular clothing that I made, and then part 2 is going to be on kind of the more lingerie, swimwear, that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna dive right in because I've got a few things to get through. So first up is way back in May, I did a pattern test for Casey over at Pattern Scout, and it was for the YMA dress pattern. This is a lovely sleeveless bias cut or not dress. So you can cut this on the bias and it'll kind of be more body skimming and more slinky, or you can cut it out on the straight grain and get something that's a little bit more structured as a shift dress. It has this beautiful kind of a soft bateau neckline, and it comes in Casey's full size range, which has all the B, C, and D cup front options. There's also a bust dart that comes from the armhole. So even if you need to do a little bit bigger of a full bust adjustment, you can do it from there. And the closure is supposed to be an invisible zipper in the center back. Now, I cut mine on the bias and I don't have a particularly small head, and I was able to get this on without a zipper, so I omitted the zipper. If you're doing the straight grain version, you might need to put a zipper in, so when you do your muslin, test it out and see where you fall in that. I was hoping to get to wear this to something special in the summer, but that didn't happen. Also, Southern California, it gets blisteringly hot here, and satin is notoriously unbreathable. So that's okay, because now I have a holiday dress all ready to go. So I made mine out of a burgundy satin. I ended up doing the midi length, and it does come in a couple of different length options. And for the hemline, I decided to just do a little bit of on my serger, I changed the feed differential so that I just got a nice rolled hem that kind of makes a little bit of a lettuce edge. And I really liked how that turned out. My favorite thing about this pattern is, if you have ever made a sleeveless woven garment that requires either an all-in-one facing or a complete lining to finish the neckline and the armholes, you know the absolute nightmare that is the burrito method for finishing those areas. So at some point you do the burrito method and you pull the entire garment through a tiny little shoulder seam. I don't know about you, but I always hate that moment because I'm so stressed out about the seam breaking. But Casey has figured out a way to not do that method. It's so much less stressful. She has a full sew along over on her channel, so go check that out. And I am probably going to be using that method on any garment that would normally require a burrito method. It's not that it doesn't work, but it's just, yeah, super stressful. But I really appreciated that about this pattern, and really loved how it turned out. Next up is another pattern test that I did for LB Textiles, and if you saw my last video, I highlighted the Gibbons slip dress, which was another test that I did for the same designer. So this one is the Wolfe top. This comes in 2 different versions. It is a knit top where there is a basic version that's just a crew neck with long sleeves. And then what really intrigued me was the twist front option. So it's got a center front seam, and it's really cleverly designed so that the twist offers this bit of interest at the waist, but the twist lies flat. So sometimes with anything with a twist, whether it's at the waist or across the bust or wherever it is, it often creates a lot of bulk, but the way that this is constructed, it lies flat. So you can layer it and not feel too like bulky around the middle. It's also got a really cool construction to finish the front side seams, the way that the back attaches to the front. And Lauren has a video on how to do that over on her YouTube channel. So I ended up making 4 versions of this. this striped version, which I was really excited to play with the stripes because it's got that center front seam, and I had a really tiny piece of this super lightweight bamboo jersey, and when I attached the sleeves, I didn't have enough of the fabric to make full sleeves, so I could only make 3/4 length sleeves, and then I didn't have enough to match the stripes on the sleeves, and that would probably not bother a lot of people. It bothered me. So after I had done the test and given Lauren the feedback, I actually ended up removing the sleeves and just putting bands and making this a tank top, and I wore this so much this summer. So I was really happy with how that turned out. The second one that I did, also sleeveless. This time I decided to do just a knit binding on the sleeve finish, which also worked really well. But I made it out of this gorgeous modal jersey that I got from Serge Fabric. My sister had gotten me a gift certificate for there. This is maybe one of the nicest knits that I have ever worked with. It's got the same soft hand and breathability and drape as a bamboo jersey, but it's just a little bit heavier, and it just kind of holds its shape a little bit better. It feels a little bit more robust, and not that I've had the opportunity to wash this a whole lot, but I think it resists pilling. It seems like it will resist pilling a lot better than some other jerseys. And it's just this perfect, like, year-round weight. I believe the color is paprika. I'll leave a link to it down below. And then the third one of this top was just the plain crew neck version. And I used this printed stretch mesh that I got several years ago now. It was one from Madeline, and she doesn't carry it anymore, but I just fell in love with the print, and the background color is really close to my skin color. So I don't know if you remember those tattoo shirts that were popular several years ago. I thought that this would kind of have this effect. This is maybe one of the softest stretch meshes I have ever felt, so it really feels just luxurious on your skin. And I also used the rest of this fabric on another garment that I'll be sharing in the second part of this series. So that's number 3. And then the fourth Wolfe top I made was another stretch mesh, and it's actually the one that I am wearing. So this is another twist front one. And the only change that I made was that I took the sleeve pattern and I used the slash and spread method to make a bell sleeve. So this feels just really kind of, I feel like I should be on a resort or something, like maybe season 3 of The White Lotus. And then I just finished it with a kind of a wide band of the same stretch mesh. So that is the Wolfe top by LB Textiles. So after making all of these Wolfe tops, I could not get the idea out of my head to make a coordinating Reznor skirt, which is also by LB Textiles. It's one of her older patterns. This is a knit skirt, and I decided to make it out of the rest of that great modal jersey. It's a very clean finished elastic waist skirt. It has a lining that kind of goes part way down the skirt, and it has 2 different views. It's got a plain kind of overlapped front view where the 2 pieces that overlap in the front are the same piece, you just overlap one over the other. And then the one that I made is the asymmetrical draped view. And the pleat and the draping looks like it might be a complicated thing, and it really isn't. 2 things that I would say when you're working with this pattern is to make sure that you pay attention to your layout if you're doing the asymmetrical version. So you want to make sure if your pattern pieces are up, that all the pieces are up, don't flip any pieces over. And also when you're sewing it together to make this very simple pleat that creates this diagonal drape in the front, make sure you pay attention to whether you're sewing the right sides or the wrong sides together. Ask me how I know that. It all worked out in the end. It was very easy to unpick and redo. So I was thrilled with how this turned out. Again, it's so comfortable. It goes with 3 out of the 4 tops that I made. And I actually wore this very outfit, this top and this skirt, for my anniversary last week. And I ate quite a lot of food when we went out to dinner, and I was still very, very comfortable. I was actually very excited to add some pants to my wardrobe this summer. I really like making pants, so I don't know why I don't make more of them, but for some reason I just have a dearth of them, especially in my kind of summer go-to wardrobe. So I made 2 pair this summer, the first of which is the Tyyni or Tyyni, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it's the Tyyni cigarette trouser by Named Clothing. And this is one of their older patterns. It's a very slim fitting, straight legged. It's meant to be cropped, but you could always lengthen them. And the cool feature of it is it's got a side seam that kind of curves around to the front. So for the pockets, which are technically side seam pockets, they actually end up behaving a little bit more like a slash pocket because that seam comes around to the front. And then it's also got 2 back darts that you use for fitting, and the waist is just finished with a facing. This is meant to be a high-waisted pant. It has a very long rise. I ended up taking quite a bit out of the front rise and even a little bit out of the back rise, which is not common for me. Usually I have to take off of the front and add a little bit to the back and do a full bum adjustment. And the fabric that I ended up using for these actually came from Marché Saint-Pierre in Paris that I got in like, I don't know, 2012, whenever I was in Paris. This was a fabric that is a stretch twill. You know when you go visit a place and you kind of not take on a different personality, but you think, oh yeah, I live here now and I'm this person, like I'm Amélie or something. That, I guess, is what inspired the purchase of this fabric, because it's really nice and everything, but I'm like, it's not my colors at all. It has a more kind of whimsical feel to it, and I don't tend to buy fabrics that are on the whimsical side, but I bought this, I think, with the vision of doing like one of those big pleated skirts that look great with like a ballet style top or something. And yeah, so I was just, I don't know, I was feeling the Paris of Paris and ended up getting this. And then when I got it home, I was like, wait, why did I buy this? And then it turns out I didn't have actually enough of it to make one of those skirts that I was thinking of. So it stayed in my stash for many, many years. But I decided to make these pants out of it, and they actually ended up being really fun. The recommendations on this pattern are for a fabric that has a tiny bit of stretch in it, but this I think had a little bit too much spandex in it, because I do get, you know, maybe 2.5 wears out of this before I have to put it in the wash to kind of shrink it back up again, because it ends up bagging out a little bit. But I am really happy with the ultimate fit on the pattern that I got, and at some point I will make a solid pair that has a bit less spandex in it. So very, very happy to have those in my wardrobe, even though they bag out kind of quickly. And then, after years of wanting a pair of wide leg white linen pants, I finally made them this summer. I used the Riviera Trousers from NH Patterns, and oh my goodness, I have been singing the praises of this pattern over on Instagram, and I'm just gonna do it again here. So this pattern is somehow magical. So it's a high-waisted trouser. There are absolutely no darts in this. No darts in the front, no darts in the back. There is a really lovely front pin tuck that goes down the center front. When I made the muslin of these pants, the only thing that I needed to do was take 1/4 inch off the front rise, and that is it. Otherwise, they fit me perfectly. And that has never, ever, ever happened in my whole lifetime of sewing or pant wearing. So needless to say, I have nothing but great things to say about this pattern. It comes in a pretty good size range, and you can also make shorts out of it. There's also the option to make a self-fabric belt, which I did not make, but I probably will on a future pair. and I made mine out of white linen. I think this originally came from fabricstore.com. It drapes really well, it sews up really well, it washes really well, and you know, of course it's linen and it wrinkles. That's what linen is for, I think, is to just be wrinkled and look great. Because they are white, and any kind of white linen pant is going to be a little bit see-through, so I felt a little bit exposed in the back, so I decided to add a back pocket, and I just echoed that pin tuck in the front. I put one in the center of the pockets in the back, and I used the pocket piece from the YMA Trousers by Closet Core Patterns. I really like the shape of that pocket, so I used that on these. I had meant to make a matching vest with it, didn't quite get to it, and now these are going to be put away probably until the springtime, but I do have enough left over to make a vest to go with them, so that's at some point in the future. And finally, just before I lose my light here, my last project is this little black and white bustier top that I actually self-drafted. Now, I had seen in the last couple of years these styles of having a horizontal bust seam, and I've been really intrigued by it. And there are a few patterns out there that have this kind of styling, but I knew that anything that I worked with, I would probably have to do a lot of like full bust adjustments and tweaking, because I really wanted this to be kind of a bustier top that I didn't have to wear a bra with. So I decided to use my bodice sloper that I made several years ago and try drafting my own. And I learned quite a bit doing this. This is made out of just a scrap of black linen and some flat piping that I made out of just some white linen that I had. It has a center back zipper, and it is fully lined, and I ended up having to put these two underbust seams as well to accommodate the size and shape of my bust, and in order to make it something that I didn't have to wear a bra with. So because I ended up making this in black and white, I am just calling this my Moira bustier top, which is named after Catherine O'Hara's character in Schitt's Creek. She wears a lot of black and white outfits. And what I learned during drafting this is that boy, do I like to set myself up for failure. So I had drafted the pattern and done a couple of muslins, and I had gotten it to where I really liked it. And then I decided, instead of just making myself like a plain black one or a plain white one or something like that, and having that sense of accomplishment, I decided like, oh, I will do this with flat piping, and I'll do it in the most contrasting colors available, black and white, which means that all of the width of the piping needs to be as close to perfect as possible. And then I also, in the middle of cutting it out and sewing it, thought, oh, I'll put the zipper on the side. This ended up being a disaster. I couldn't get into it. It was awkward. I almost gave up on this thing. So I had set it aside for a day or two, I think, and then I came back to it and ended up just taking out the side zipper, sewing up the side seam, and then I just cut the back in half, and I just tried to make it look intentional by putting some more of that piping on either side of the zipper and making it an exposed zipper. So it actually ended up working out totally fine. Yeah, don't think that I will be a full-time pattern maker anytime soon, but this did give me some confidence in going forward with some other drafting ideas that I have, at least just for myself. If you like that kind of styling and you don't want to draft it yourself, I have a few pattern recommendations for you. One is the Bubble Frock by Lydia Naomi. It comes in a dress length and a top length, and she has a video tutorial on her YouTube channel that goes along with it. And she also has instructions for full and small bust adjustments. The second one is the YMA dress by Oz Patterns, which is a French pattern company. She has instructions in French and in English. She also has a video course that goes along with it when you buy the pattern. And that one does actually come in 4 different cup depths. And then the last one is a new pattern by Jessie Lou's Patterns. She did this in collaboration with Evan Eid, or Eid, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. It's called the Sparkle Top, and there is a video sew along on Jessica's YouTube channel, and I believe they also have instructions for full and small bust adjustments for that pattern. Oh boy, that was a lot. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end, if that's what you have done. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you like this kind of content. And I will be back soon with part 2 of this sewing roundup video. And in the meantime, take great care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.